Welcome to Beasley Finds Panama. This video is about some of the reasons why Americans are moving to Panama. Time codes are listed in the video description below, along with all of the Beasley finds for this topic. By the way, it's not just Americans that are moving. Expats from countries in Europe and other places are going there as well. If you don't know what an expat is, it's simply anyone who lives outside of their native country, even for part of the year. It's estimated that 20 to 30,000 American expats live in Panama, and some of them have permanently retired there. Have you considered living somewhere outside of your native country? Are you curious to know some of the reasons people move away from their country of origin? Even if you have no interest in moving to Panama, you can apply what you learn in this video to plan for a rewarding life in a place of your own choice. As a bonus, you will find out where this resplendent Quetzal bird is flying off to. So the number one reason for moving to Panama is the lower cost of living. It is estimated that 33% of Americans have no access to a retirement plan. Of the 67% of Americans that do, another 16% choose not to participate. According to the Government Accountability Office, the median retirement savings for Americans 55 to 64 years old is around $120,000. That number should be somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million to meet your needs in retirement. So what can you do if you haven't got enough saved for the type of lifestyle you hope to live? Well, when I was in the service, I traveled a lot, and I noticed that my money could buy more in certain parts of the world, thanks to the exchange rate and cost of goods and services. That idea stuck with me, and in business school, I learned that there are opportunities to be found by researching price differences between similar assets in different markets. Many expats are taking advantage of price differences in other countries, which can be an avenue to early retirement. Americans do this on a local level by living in the suburbs where houses are cheaper, but commuting to a city for higher wages, then saving up money to move somewhere even more affordable in retirement. The idea is pretty simple, and Americans have become more willing to leave the United States to find a cheaper place to live. Panama isn't the least expensive country you could move to, but you do get a lot of value for the money. Before we dive in deeper, please hit the thumbs up button. That's how the YouTube algorithm knows to share this video with other viewers. Thanks! My top choice for where to move in Panama is the mountain town of Boquete in the western highlands region of Chiriqui. Boquete means hole or gap, and the town rests in a volcanic crater located on the flank of the dormant Baru Volcano. It straddles the continental divide, so you have two oceans to choose from. In the central part of Boquete, you could pay as little as $500 for a furnished studio apartment, or $2,000 and up for a luxury condo. Just like any other place, things are more expensive in the center and become more affordable as you branch out. In the outlying areas, you could rent a whole house for $1,200 with several rooms and at least 2 bathrooms. You can't even find a one-bedroom apartment where I live in the US for that much money. The further you get from the center of Boquete, the more affordable housing will become. But there are many options in and around Boquete, and I'm confident you can find a 2-bedroom apartment in a good area for around $750, give or take $100. Please see the links in the video description below to browse some of the apartment and home listing websites. Note that you can also join a Panama real estate group and an expat group on social media such as Facebook. You should budget between $1,500 and $2,000 for your living expenses in Boquete. Using average numbers from the US for the year 2022, let's compare some typical expenses with what they cost in Boquete. These numbers are household figures for the US compared with their Boquete counterparts. At $750, a 2-bedroom rental comes in 36% lower than the US average. Dining out and groceries is $610 for the US and $450 for Boquete, only a 26% savings. Utilities are $370 for the US and $250 for Boquete, a 32% difference. Transportation is $819 for the US and only $250 for Boquete, a whopping 70% savings. Utility savings are substantial because heating and cooling aren't really necessary in Boquete, and transportation cost savings are attributable to the small size of Panama and competition among providers. One can certainly save money by living in an affordable place like Panama, but lifestyle creep can be a damper on your savings potential. The trick to saving money is to integrate with your new market and stick to your budget. Another thing I will say about living abroad is that it's not an all or nothing proposition. Just like other retirees, you could spend part of the year in Panama and part of it back in the US or a different foreign country. There are plenty of short-term rental options on various sites such as Airbnb, Craigslist, and Encuentra24. Most of these are fully furnished, so you could try it out for a little while before committing to a longer stay. The second reason for moving to Panama is the retiree visa program. If you don't know what a visa is, I'm not talking about the credit card, just to be clear. A visa is an endorsement placed within a passport that grants the holder official permission to come and go in a foreign country. A passport, on the other hand, is often good enough for shorter stays, and it allows you to re-enter your own country afterwards. If you are planning to live in another country, you will generally need some sort of visa. Now, you may recall earlier how I mentioned that Panama is not the least expensive country in Latin America, but it does represent a good value. This is partly due to the Pensionata visa program, also known as the retiree visa. Pensionado visa holders receive a variety of discounts that can add up to substantial savings on things such as entertainment, lodging, airfare, restaurants, utilities, healthcare, and more. You don't have to be at retirement age for the benefits either. You just need to have the visa. I also mentioned that you could live in Panama for part of the year. Since Panama allows tourists to stay for up to 180 days without a visa, you could still live here for half of the year with just your passport. To get the Pensionata visa, you will need to prove a monthly income of at least $1,000 from a public or private pension, such as Social Security or a company 401k. Panama clearly wants to attract retirees with stable income, and they have one of the most generous visa programs of any country. By the way, if you enjoy this type of content, please hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this one. It doesn't cost anything, and it really helps out the channel. Thank you. The number 3 reason for moving to Panama is geographic diversity. Despite its small size, there are a lot of options for living in different places with their own unique look and feel. Panama is about the size of South Carolina, and it is much longer than it is wide. Most of that length is divided by mountains, which separate the Pacific side to the south from the Caribbean side to the north. Due to the vertical geography of Panama, you can find your Goldilocks zone where the temperature is perfectly to your liking and expect that it will remain that temperature all year, plus or minus only a few degrees. The mountainous spine of the country adds a great amount of variety in terms of climate, biodiversity, and activities to enjoy. Panama connects the Pacific side of the world to the Atlantic at the narrowest part of the country, where you will find the Panama Canal. Nowhere else in the world can you find such a shortcut connecting the planet's 2 biggest oceans. And thanks to the unique geography of Panama, you could take an early morning tour up Baru Volcano near Boquete to watch the sunrise over both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans at the same time. Aside from some relatively inaccessible jungle areas, most of the country is safe and ready for you to explore. Even the indigenous areas, like the remarkable Sandblast Islands on the Caribbean, are open for tourism. The number 4 reason for moving to Panama is the climate. If you do plan to move, I recommend you visit twice to experience the different seasons. Panama really only has 2 of them, wet and dry. The climate of Panama is tropical and equatorial, so the weather can be quite rainy, but the pattern of precipitation is not evenly distributed. The northern Caribbean side of Panama is the rainiest. The southern Pacific side can be considerably less rainy. Just consider the difference between Colón and Panama City. They are on opposite sides of the Panama Canal, but only 35 miles from each other. Panama gets 65 inches per year, but Colón gets 130 inches of rain per year. That's double the amount. At this point in my life, I would rather be complaining about the rain than complaining about the snow back up north in the US. And no offense to those that enjoy the snow, of course. I loved it when I was a kid. And why do people complain about the snow anyway? Is it because they ran out of other things to complain about? No, it's because we are looking for more comfort and convenience when we get older. and snow can make things inconvenient in a hurry. Plus, it takes time and energy to remove, it interferes with transportation, interrupts the power supply, and can be dangerous. Contrast that with the rain in Panama, which generally doesn't stop people from living their lives. It's fairly predictable and doesn't last all day. Other than occasional flooding, the rain is highly beneficial. Many expats explain how they've come to love and appreciate the wet season because everything is fresh and the flowers are in bloom. Another bit of good news is that Panama almost never gets hit by hurricanes. You won't have to trade snowstorms for hurricanes and tornadoes by moving to Panama, a common trade-off for many retirees in the US. Keep in mind that if you're not thrilled with the idea of the rainy season, you can always live in a place like Panama part-time. After all, isn't that what snowbirds in the Northeast do? They live the summer months in the Northeast until winter rolls around, and then they fly to their little place down south. And with places like Florida getting a bit pricey these days, it's no wonder Americans are moving to Panama. The fifth and final reason for moving to Panama is because of all the lifestyle options one can afford. Back in the US, a beachfront house or apartment might not be in your budget, whereas in Panama, you could most likely afford to live in one of the many coastal areas. You might prefer the country club setting of the Coronado community on the Pacific, or the island-hopping backpacker's paradise in Boquete del Toro on the Caribbean. Alternatively, you could live in the highlands of Boquete or El Valle de Anton. If you like to change up your lifestyle from time to time, the small size of Panama makes doing so relatively easy. Panama City is one of the most modern cities in Latin America, with a major international airport, a subway system, and a regional airport with regular flights to Boquete del Toro and David, which is the second largest city and only an hour from Boquete. I am not a big city person, but I would definitely live in Panama City, where you could stay in a high-rise condo overlooking the Pacific and enjoy your rooftop pool every day for less than a one-bedroom apartment back in the US. All of the places I mentioned are also reachable by car or bus. And in my experience, the transportation system and infrastructure are great in Panama. I've been to some other Latin American countries where you definitely don't want to rent a car, but in Panama you will do fine, and the Pan American Highway makes getting around easy. You will find some really nice convenience stores along the highway too, cleaner than many of the rest stops you will find in the US in fact. I recommend you book a trip and see for yourself why Americans are moving to Panama. In the next video, I will go into more depth about where to go in Panama should you choose to visit. Recall that we started the video with a Quetzal bird taking flight. I guess he was just going home to see his kid. Maybe one day you will make a home in Panama too. Let me know in the comments section if you want to see another video like this featuring a different country. And please subscribe to the channel for more travel related content. Thanks and take care.